Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. It's a Tuesday afternoon. I'm joined all the way from the Skylark by Lawrence Conley. And we've got a debut. Quinny, you're making your Acsom debut on the bulletin. How are you, pal?
Hi. Thanks for having us on. Nice to meet you, Lawrence. I didn't get a chance a second ago, but nice to meet you all. And looking forward to it, mate.
Debutant. I know it wasn't his debut at the weekend, but it was certainly his first start, Lawrence. Luke McKeown. Remind me, because I was talking about Luke yesterday, and I am absolutely happy to admit I wasn't on the Luke McKeown bus when we were talking about being interested in him. I didn't think that was the way the club should have been going. He's come in, he's rammed those words down my throat and many others. He gets his first start, opens the scoring at the weekend. And you're now looking at that midfield, Lawrence, and you're thinking it's any 3 from 5 week to week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was just after Dundee beat Rangers. I can't remember. I'm sure that happened last season, didn't it? And McKeown ran the show. I think we spoke about Celtic should be signing him then. Or I spoke about Celtic should be signing him, and you said not a chance. But
it was an early shout, Lawrence. I've got to give you credit, mate. It was an early shout from you on McKeown.
Yeah, I think, see, when you look at the Scottish League, if you get a midfielder that performs well against the top two, whether kind of last season that was Celtic and the Rangers, or this season Celtic and Aberdeen, you've got to take a look at them and say, if they can run the show against any one of the top two, we should be having a look at them. It's like, with Lennon Miller the weekend, what a first 20 minutes he had. It's a guy that you've got to, get Toshin team out looking at, if they're not already. I'm sure they're aware of them. And seriously consider bringing them in. It does. It helps the league trend. It's brilliant that Luke McKeown's a Celtic fan. I think from Greenock, isn't he? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he'll be in the Greenock Celtic club, which well will be over the moon about that. But Greenman's been amazing. Goals, assists, he starts, and you know what? It was a bit scrappy until he took the game by the scruff of the neck. But that's what you want. You want somebody that can make a difference, can make it happen. And Luke's shown that he can do that. Does Callum come straight back in? I don't know. What would Luke need to do to keep the jersey, other than a game-changing performance and scoring a goal?
Well, there's a few things from that. Yes, he is from Greenock. You ever been to the Greenock CSC, Quinny? You ever visited the Greenock?
I've been in Greenock and Gourock a fair amount of times, but I've never frequented any of the supporters clubs, sadly. It's always just been driving through, normally to Largs, places like that, But
yeah.
But no, I'm a Dumbarton boy, so Greenock is it's not friendly territory, let's say. It's,
is it Dumbarton?
I like to shove each other across the Clyde,
I remember I when I used to visit it more regularly than I do now. It's in Laird Street in Greenock, and I used to do that drive where it was all beautiful, scenic, waterfronts and all that. And I would say to the people figuring, "Oh, beautiful place." They're like, "Really? It's a shithole." And no, it's not. It's absolutely beautiful and scenic and photogenic and all of these things. But Luke McKeown, I'm sure, has been in the Greenock CSC. Someone who's actually banned from the Greenock is not you, Lawrence, not yet anyway. Martin Compston. Martin Compston's banned.
Is he?
Did you not hear that story?
I'm shocked in that, mate. Just talking about that kind of neck of the woods, we lost one of our viewers. His funeral was the other week. Mm-hmm. Joe Mulgrew sadly passed away. He was from down that way, but he kind of watched Acsom regularly and, attended games when he was fit enough. And I think his brother Tucker's 93 and still going to games. So.
Brilliant. No, a big shout out to the family, Lawrence. I think you went to pay your respects last week, didn't you? And it's always sad, and it's great when we hear from Acsom listeners. Another big shout out to everybody who donated for the wee Jamie appeal. We were collecting jerseys, we were getting them signed and framed, etc. We were donated a beautiful Henrik Larsson signed print from Hugh McGregor, who's a long-time listener to Acsom. That in itself got over £250, and in total, there was around just roughly about £2,000, I think it was, raised through the Acsom stuff. But in total, they've raised £20,000 from Saturday night. So that was tremendous. A great effort from everybody involved. Luke McKeown, Quinny, were you on the fence or were you on the bus when we signed him?
I was definitely on the bus for that, because I think, when you seen McKeown play against us, I was kind of likened him a little bit to Tati, because he's a little bit shorter, high energy guy, and he kind of pops up everywhere in the pitch in that sense. And yeah, I think when you looked at him last year, the game that Lawrence was talking about was a 0-0 draw with Dundee at home to Rangers, the back end of April. So it was towards the back end of the season. It was probably quite a meaningful game. But yeah, no, I was always quite open to it. Him and a few other players in the league, because the big thing that gets held against like the league or Scotland or youth development and all this kind of thing is developing players of like the level, of course, but also the style of play, and there's not many midfielders that kick about that look McKibben. So when you do, like Lawrence said, when they come up against, the Glasgow teams especially, if, they can kind of keep the level that they show against like Ross Counties and Dundee Uniteds and whatever, then, there's definitely players that are always worth keeping kind of tabs on, because you do need that kind of personality in the club of, homegrown-ish players to kind of fill that void. Another one that kind of sprang to mind, I think he made a transfer this summer, so I'm not sure where he plays now, but there was a guy we were talking about last year. I want to say his name was Simon Murray, and he was like being called the Ginger Maeda. I can't remember if he was like Ross County and he went to Dundee, or he was Dundee, now he's maybe at Kilmarnock or something, but it was a guy, I'm sure it was Simon Murray, maybe somebody in the chat will know. But yeah, there's a few players that stylistically are kind of maybe hovering around right now, and if you can get them for relatively nominal fees, like, they're only going to make the squad better. And I think McKibben is really, has reminded us that this can work after like Turnbull, sort of thing. So
yeah,
I've been on the McKibben bus.
I think Strachan was good at that type of signing. The obvious ones obviously are Hartley and Robson. I got a row for even daring to name Stephen Presley before, but he was another guy that came in as a domestic signing, and there were others. Caldwell came from Hibs, didn't he? So Strachan was very good at plucking players from the league and utilising them really well within, the Champions League even, because we went on some great runs under Gordon Strachan. Now, big game obviously tomorrow night. A couple of big games happening in Scottish football tomorrow night that we're going to be talking about. Monty is welcoming you onto the show. Quinny boy, there you go. I'm sure Monty will have tuned into your own show. Where do we find you online, Quinny, when you're streaming yourself? I see you a lot on Twitter, X.
Yeah, so like on social media in general, you'll find me as Quinny3001. It's just like the social media handle, but I do a lot of Celtic content on Celts Are Here. We've got a YouTube channel that's doing pretty well, mainly like posting pre-match stuff and maybe just some topics to fill international breaks and that kind of thing. But Celts Are Here, all one word, or Quinny3001.
It's tremendous now that, back in the day, I think we're away into Glasgow just after this show finishes. I'm going to be taking a drive through to Glasgow because we're filming This Is Acsom with the one and only Phil Differ, whose name is synonymous with Scottish comedy. It's incredible what he's been involved in. But the last time I spoke to him for Acsom was 7 years ago, and we were talking about the old fanzine culture, Lawrence. I know you've got a few in your bar. I've got a few in here as well. Yeah. And this, in many ways, live streaming is very much, I think, like that, just a slightly different platform where you've got fans airing their views. There are serious topics. There are not so serious topics. There's times where you can have a good laugh at yourself. So it's a different version of it. But how amazing is it, Lawrence, that Celtic still have print fanzines getting sold outside games? I mean, not the view for me is the Bible.
Yeah, no, listen, it's great, the content. I think it just is the passion of the supporters, isn't it? They want more than the normal media is delivering, and the kind of fans are just stepping in and giving other fans what they want to read about. Whether it's, you miss that from your workplace or going down a pub post-COVID, it's still sustaining, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The extra chat about it. And we've missed out that constant story, mate. I really want to know what you have to do to get banned from a pub in Greenock. I thought that'd been pretty hard.
All right, we very quickly moved on for that. Yes, I had done a few gigs. I think in total, I was having a look at this recently when we went back with Lubo. I think I've done maybe 9 events there. Charity event to start off with, and then coming back to, and you've been at quite a few of them, Lawrence. Danny McGrain, Alan Thompson, John Hartson. There's been a lot of the nights.
Big Rab was excellent, wasn't he?
Oh, I forgot about that one actually. Yeah, Big Rab, that's right.
Great storyteller, Big Rab.
It's the only night where I haven't had a question in the second half with somebody who played in Seville that said, if we had a different goalie, would we have won that game? And that's probably because Rab Douglas has got hands like shovels, Quinny, and nobody would dare ask him that question. But we got told one night that there was CCTV footage. I hope Martin Compson's listening, because you could come onto the show, actually, Martin, and appear on This Is Acsom and tell us this is true. But there was a wee falling out at reception, and I think there was a wee Barney, and Martin has been banned. So there you go. That was when he was a wee boy. I'm talking 15, 16, Lawrence.
I'm sure Greenock CSA will step in, and if he's not already, make him an honorary member.
I would, absolutely.
I'm sure you could speak to the boys from Three Kings and say, listen, I've a word with Martin. I'm sure there's a connection there. get him on action with the spell, or otherwise this vicious rumour.
Absolutely. On you come, Martin. It'd be great to speak to you. We know you're a massive Celtic fan. We're talking about individuals who might be playing tomorrow night, but I want to have a wee chat about the left-back situation. Quinny, I'll come to you first. So we were running for a spell there with one left-back after Bernabei was loaned out to Brazil International. And at first he wasn't getting a game. And you're looking at that thinking, oh no, we're going to get him back at the end of this year, because it was up to the 31st of December. And then all of a sudden he starts performing really well and getting in amongst the goals. And there's chat that they might want to make the deal permanent. Are we about to get some of the Rafael shite money back from Brazilian football? Because I read a report and the figure was huge. Where's that figure coming from?
Well, I've not seen too much more of him beyond like highlights and stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff I kind of get up to in my part time with like fantasy football and all the rest of it, you kind of see how players are performing in like quite a neutral way. So it doesn't really matter if they're playing in Scotland or they're playing in Brazil or England or Italy. You can kind of see like an equalizer almost on, you know, what they're doing on the pitch, if that makes sense. And like, yeah, I'd be honestly, like, it came out today that we've asked for 10 million euros, which I was so happy when I heard that, because we're finally asking for proper money. The fear with these things is that you get into a Jack Hendry situation where you've already agreed a nominal fee with somebody and, you know, they pull your pants down and sell them on for a profit very quickly. Because like the thing with Bernabei in particular, like the Brazilian league is like the best league in South America. You probably have an argument whether it's better than MLS or not, depending on who you talk to. But it's clearly like the league with the most money in South America in terms of like their TV deals, the transfer revenue, sponsorship wages, and all the rest of it. So that kind of fee isn't really beyond them, if you know what I mean. That's not like you're asking for something incredibly wild. But Argentina, for the last couple of generations, haven't really had great fullbacks. And if you look at who their left-back potentials are at the moment, there's nobody that's really that great overall, you know, or in the prime of their career or all the rest of it. And if he's able to do this in Brazil, like people get Argentina caps for playing for River Plate and Boca Juniors, which is a league kind of below Brazil in that kind of way. So, yeah, it feels like we'll get a bag of money for him. It feels like his prospects are on the way up, is the way I kind of read it.
Listen, that would be some of the best business I've seen. You would get your money back for Bernabei plus the Rafael money all in one go, Lawrence. I mean, the bottom line is, at this moment in time, there's no future for him at Celtic, is there, Lawrence? He's played under two managers. He's just never fitted in. I don't think he's got that defensive quality that you need. You look at that game against Atalanta last week, everybody had to be absolutely solid at the back, playing a very defensive game. And I think that's why Trusty and Scales will look so good. There's a ball, defend it, and I think they're brilliant at that. I cannot see that situation suiting somebody like Bernabei. So he's no future at Celtic. If we can cash in on him, absolutely do so. And this leads us on to the question for Wednesday night, tomorrow night. Who starts? Because Taylor's back, sat on the bench at the weekend. He's fit. Rodgers has spoken about him, but Bailly's been playing pretty well, in my view, at left back. So what do you make of the left back situation, Lawrence?
Well, listen, get money for Bernabei will be absolutely excellent for us. We forget he was a young boy. He's come away to a different environment. Maybe South America just suits him better. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the weather's better. I don't know what it could be. But
the weather definitely is better.
Yeah, perhaps. But, you know, listen, and who starts? I think Vice keeps the jersey. He's got the physicality Rodgers has been talking about. He's done nothing to deserve losing the jersey. Taylor's not going to be match fit. You know, it's important we get him get the 3 points. He might come on and get some minutes. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be match fit. So I think you start with Aye. He's come in, first two games, you weren't too sure, but since then, yeah, he's looked great. As he's been talking about in the papers, he's enjoying settling into life in Glasgow. The football's going well for him. So if we won't have any hope of keeping him beyond a year, I don't think you can drop him out of a team for having done nothing wrong. As soon as Taylor's back to fitness, and I don't think Taylor's match fit. So yeah, keep it by in. He's shown that he's got the quality we need. I think any player should be there in merit. It goes back to McCowan. I think McCowan should start. He's the boy that changed the game for us. Mm-hmm. He's the boy that terribly scuffed the neck and got a goal. You've got to start McCowan. You've got to reward performances. Bailly and McCowan have been putting in performances. What are you going to pick? Taylor over because he's been good for us for a number of seasons. Well, I'm sorry, somebody's got that jersey just now and they're doing well. And honestly, I wouldn't be dropping McCowan after that performance. I'd be saying, look, it's your jersey. You know, you're the guy taking responsibility and making sure we get a goal ahead.
The best example of claiming a jersey as your own and keeping a hold of it, Quinny, for me, is Liam Scales. So I totally get what Lawrence means there. I mean, McCowan's not done anything wrong. Baye's not done nothing wrong to actually get dropped for a game on Wednesday night. I wouldn't even view it as being dropped. You know, it's one of these things where we do have to use the squad. We've got Dundee, Aberdeen, and we're back into Europe. So we're going to have to use the squad effectively. But on the note of the left back situation, it's a strange one because Bernabei's away. Let's hope we can do a deal and make it permanent for him and wish him all the best. We've got a lone guy in who's playing at the moment, left back. And I'm not going to call him a contractual rebel because that's a bit tabloid. But we've got Greg Taylor having not signed a new contract at the moment, sitting on the bench. You know, it's not an ideal situation to be in with regards to the left backs, Quinny, because you might have Taylor discussing a new deal come January with another club. Hopefully not. You've got Baye. We don't know beyond this season if we're going to have a hold of him, and Bernabei might be out the building. So it's a difficult scenario at the moment to gauge. But what Lawrence says, I agree with. The best left back at this moment in time is Baye. So he plays for me tomorrow night. What's your take?
I hope Baye keeps his place. I've seen Taylor was pictured in training earlier today, and he also made the bench at the weekend. I would hope that we maybe, if Taylor does get brought straight back into the team, it's probably not from the start tomorrow night. It's probably like the Carter Vickers treatment we've seen at the weekend for like 30 minutes. But I think then after that, because like after that you've got Aberdeen, you've then got Leipzig, hard away games in the league, and then it's Bruges at home. That's the kind of run in thereafter. And I think Rodgers will want from Aberdeen onwards, like the best optimal 11 to be in fighting shape and play every minute available sort of thing. So it's kind of just, where does he see the best 11 now? Is it with Taylor fully fit, or is Valley kind of done enough? I think Valley, it's really hard because I think then when you think about he's done too good to take him out automatically, how do you get Vickers back into centre back? And if that's a policy, you know, like, so it's a proper enigma, the defence, I think. And I think Wednesday will be very revealing. You know, we'll kind of see some bits and pieces, but I think it's impossible to call it, to be honest. I feel like if it was Scales, Taylor and Vickers playing, I wouldn't be surprised. And if it was Valley, Trusty and Scales or Vickers, I wouldn't be surprised either. It's like, really could be any of them.
It's great that we've got the options. That's the big thing. And we'll get into the midfield, but I'm going to break away for a moment to talk about something that was brought up some time ago in a Celtic State of Mind, and that was Snoop Doggy Dog. Now, Lawrence, I don't know if you're a fan.
Tommy's mate, isn't it?
Whose mate?
Tommy's mate, isn't it? Tommy Sheridan's mate?
No, that was Coolio.
Is that Coolio?
That was Coolio, Gangster's Paradise. You know, Snoop Dogg, his debut album was Doggy Style. He also obviously came to prominence on The Chronic by Dr. Dre. That's kind of my era. Quinny, I'm giving away my age here, but that's my era. That was the cassette in my Walkman doing my paper round back in the day. And he has said previously that he's a Celtic fan, and I use the term loosely. He admires the club and all that. There's pictures of him. He bumped into the squad. You remember he bumped into the squad at an airport, and there's pictures of Snoop with Dylan McGeoch and all that, right? I think we were away to play or coming home from the game against Real Madrid that we played in the States. Anyway, he has spoken this week about investing in a club. He is inspired by Ryan Reynolds, who obviously has invested in Wrexham and made a documentary out of it. We had said previously, Quinny, that we thought it was good from a merchandising perspective with the mascot being renamed Snoop, obviously. Snoopy. Yeah. And we could get Snoop Dogg, all that. Absolutely. Sell the dolls. What do you make of it? Because on the one hand, right, I love the fact that we've got this appeal. It's like, not only do we have the Irish diaspora all over the world and the Irish bars all over the world, but celebrities seem to cling to the Celtic thing as well. We've seen it in the past. Are you one of these fans, do you think, Quinny, that's like, oh, you'll never beat a game? Or do you just embrace it and think, oh, this is brilliant, I'm all over it?
For something like that, I definitely think you embrace it, because like we've probably kind of bemoaned in a few different ways how kind of stale, for lack of a better term, like the ownership and the boardroom situation is. And not that somebody like that would come in and be making decisions or really upset the apple cart, but it definitely is a departure from the norm, you know, and it's certainly very brand Celtic, isn't it? You know, as Brendan's kind of said a few times, you know, you've got brand Celtic and you've got the football team. So, you know, and Like they've done a great job this season, Celtic, on like revamping their social media. They hired a bunch of people from the Man City social media team and all the rest of it. So like, if it kind of helps sell more jerseys and helps get more people tuning into Celtic TV in like America and just puts more money into the club, then it's a hard thing to be against, especially when it's fun. You know, you're not expecting Snoop Dogg to come in and be Roman Abramovich or anything. You know, like it's just not the way it's going to be. But if he wants to come in and maybe fund a Lennon Miller signing or something, that would be cool.
We'll definitely get to him, because mentions of Liam Miller are definitely trending on the Acsom comments field in the last few days. But I mean, like you say, I cannot foresee a moment where we're live streaming a board meeting with Brian Wilson and Snoop Dogg in the same room, Lawrence, however box office that might be. But I do think you've got to tap into it. There must be some kind of merchandising opportunity or something going into the territory where Snoop's based and saying, what can we do to try and increase the awareness of this football club?
Look, listen, more Celtic fans, the better. But I think the rules around investment have been tightened up. So I'm not too sure how easy it was for him would be to come in and give us a load of cash and say, go and invest that. And I don't know if I'd want that. You know, goodness knows if you had a paper billionaire, what would happen to your club if it was just in paper and he came in and splashed cash he didn't have? Club might go bust and cease to exist. Who knows? So maybe being run prudently is a good thing in some respects. But yeah, absolutely tap into the market. You know, we've got a big following over there in the States already. I saw kind of Lone Star were putting out, they had some visitors from Glasgow for the last game. Lone Star down in Texas. Yeah, so they've got a really good network over in North America. But I suppose he's worldwide, isn't he, as an artist? But yeah, absolutely tap into it. But I don't know if the Ryan Reynolds investment would be possible anymore with the new rules coming in. But yeah, more Celtic fans, the better, I think.
Yeah, I just want like a halftime Super Bowl style thing for Trophy Day, Quinny. I'd be happy with that. And then see the Snoop Dogg merchandise in the shop. Tony, happy birthday to you. You're 54 today. Trad Dav. Tony has actually been at an Acsom live event all the way from the States. So it's great to see you in the comment section. And if you want to come, not just you, Tony, but anyone wants to come along to John Collins, tickets are going fast. He doesn't do live events that often, but he is joining us on the 1st of December at Gracie's, and the link is under the video. Jimmy Boy 71. Hey, Paul, I've got a 5 or an Aberdeen. More of a positive vibe and at Pataudry. Now, Quinny, this is the first time this season you've been on a Celtic State of Mind. We've spoken a fair bit about the challenge. Some people don't want to see it as a challenge, never mind for the title, but even for second place. What's your take on Aberdeen's season so far? And, you know, the massive game tomorrow night, people's views might change come Thursday morning. What's your take on it?
I think that they are, like, as it stands now, like a challenger. And like in my lifetime, the only thing I've ever seen that's anywhere kind of close to that was like the George Burley Hearts team. And I don't really think this team's that far away from at least. Well, you know, I can't remember how well they done, but it was like half the season, wasn't it? They were really fighting with us for the top two, and then they kind of fell away, wasn't it? But I think the thing Aberdeen have got this time around with this manager is a guy that's coming in kind of, I don't want to kind of link him in this way because they're not really similar in a lot of ways, but it's that kind of coming from obscurity into the light, as it were. He's kind of got a wee bit of the Anges in that way. He's got a style of play, and he's got, you know, he brings in some players he knows rapid, you know, from the region he's from, and he knows he can get a good transfer on, as well as some other stuff. And they've not got midweek football, you know, they're not playing Conference League or anything like that. Obviously, they're playing us in the semi-final, but that cup competition is all but done. And the thing that makes them competitive right now, their best 11, their starting 11 is really good. But as you've seen against us and the game they played after us, I forget who the opponent was now, but the players that they're bringing off the bench don't really reduce the level of the best 11 too much. There is like a step down in some ways, but a lot of like raw physical attributes are just as high, you know, so like running power, strength. And you've seen like when they played us, he made 2 subs at half time. The guy's like really proactive. And, you know, if they can make 2 subs against us at half time and change the game, I fancy them to do that against Ross County, Motherwell, Kilmarnock or whatever, more often than not across the season. And the last thing I would say on this, right, which I think is something that we all kind of forget about, is the season where Gerrard won them their cup to break us up in our run. The real thing that happened for them that year was they beat everyone else. You know, off the top of my head, I don't think their derby record was even, except I don't think they beat us in every game. I don't think it was even on the balance of it. They beat us on aggregate. but they beat everyone else that year. That was the main thing for them. They weren't getting these embarrassing results. And Aberdeen could do that. Like, they could beat everyone else probably quite easy. And then you get to April and the split happens, and, you know, I don't think we'll be worried about them, but I think they'll still be up there.
The thing that I've always looked at, and we've discussed it on here, and we're talking about teams that, for me, are underachieving sides. And Aberdeen have been in that bracket. Hibs and Hearts, I've mentioned Dundee United, who are just back into the top division. And I totally agree with that. I think you can get your backyard in order, Lawrence, to such a degree in Scottish football where you should absolutely be sitting third. And then there's the question of, right, what do you need to push the boat out? What do you need in terms of the ambition to make this even better? And there's a lot of moving parts in that. And I think a big part of that particular question is how badly the second team are doing. So we've seen, obviously, this. I don't think Rangers are a phenomenal side. I think they've got a lot of problems behind the scenes that they seem to have had for the last 12 years and beyond that. So there's an opportunity there for me, Lawrence. And I think the big opportunity come January, if you're still in the mix, is further investment in January. And if you've got that ambition and you want to really do something, at that point, you push the boat out. You bring in another 2 or 3 signings. And at that stage, I think that you really can push this. But at the moment, I think a lot of people are reluctant to view Aberdeen as a challenger.
Listen, I think since the new club was formed and admitted to the league for the first time, they haven't always come second because they had to start, the bottom division. So there have been other clubs got second place, and I think that should be where they're targeting. They should have some ambition and go, well, look, if a new club like them, can come up through the leagues, not first asking. I think Motherwell had a bit of a say in that, keeping them down. But why can't we? Are they better run than us? You look at the way the guys across the Clyde are run, you wouldn't say they were the best run club in Scottish football. Can they attract better players? Maybe, but if they can do it, why not us? And I think Aberdeen were looking at that. They've had some investment. They went out and got an exciting young manager. They're winning games. We've talked about it on here before. They don't need to compete with Celtic. They just need to beat everyone else. We've got 8 Champions League games. It's how those affect us. We don't always do well after Champions League games. So it's, can we keep winning after 8 games? And we've had some hard ties, hard away games after Champions League so far. So Aberdeen's just got to hang in there till January, then reassess. And it's how much they can afford to invest in perhaps areas they could see that they could strengthen themselves in. John Beaton must be heavily conflicted getting into this game tomorrow night. He must not know what to do for the best. Aberdeen, if they lose, Celtic clique some daylight at the top. But it's, if Rangers lose, Aberdeen are keeping pace with Celtic. If Rangers win. So, yeah, Beaton must be a wee bit conflicted there. And what he wants, not from his referee eyes, I'm talking about from his Rangers fans' eyes. Obviously, as a
You've seen the school yearbook as well, then, Lawrence.
Happen.
Yeah, you've seen the school yearbook. I wonder what Lawrence's school yearbook said about him, Quinny. What do you think? I mean, back then, Lawrence, what were you into?
Mate, I don't even know if we had school yearbooks when I was that age. I think that was like an American thing, wasn't it?
It's a new thing, is it? Right.
Yeah, okay. I think it's new, but look, Aberdeen, they're doing great, and obviously, Quinny's touched on the George Burley Hearts. I think they won their first 10 or something. But, you'll remember kind of when the early 80s when it was Aberdeen and Dundee United, the new firm that kind of were the challengers there. So, Aberdeen's filling Pittodrie now. I think we're filled again against Dundee United. There's no reason why they can't beat everybody else in Scottish football. No one's going to touch Celtic in terms of finance. No one will touch the old Rangers in terms of debt. But, somewhere in the middle between there, Aberdeen, if they're well run, can certainly. Well, they've been doing it. They've been putting on performances, haven't they? They've, developed players, get decent transfers.
Yeah,
challenges.
And the crowd's coming back. 20,000 at the Dundee United game. 20,000 at the game.
Excellent for Aberdeen, mate. Listen, you'd welcome a bit of a challenge from them, away from the sectarianism that the other mob bring. So, yeah, only continue, mate. I'd be happy to see them in touch, kind of, until Christmas anyway.
Well, the big thing as well is momentum, Quinny. I mean, there's a few people, and I know it's a different scenario and different scales of finance and all that, but a few people have said in the comments over the last couple of weeks, nobody believed Leicester's challenge was real until they won it, you know? And I think the momentum's huge. You know, as I said there, Dundee United at home, there was a throwback to the 80s, and neither of the two sides are anywhere near as good as the vintage new form in the 1980s. But to see 19,000 odd at Pittodrie and a hard-fought game, 1-0, you're looking at that and thinking that's healthy. But it gives them a bounce and it gives them this huge thing called momentum as well, Quinny.
Yeah, I think it's the hardest thing in football to kind of track or to kind of get a real gauge on is momentum. But like, goals change games, and if you've got guys that are confident, great, not creating opportunities, getting opportunities, then that is more than half the battle for a lot of these teams. You know, like you just need to look at, you know, like I've mentioned the Hearts team, obviously the guys you have seen before in the 80s and stuff like that. But even when you look all across football, like any team that wins, like, I don't know, if they finish like mid-table or top half of mid-table, say they win 15 games over the season, 8 or 9 of them are going to be right close to each other. You know, it's just, that's a big part of where your success comes in a season. And normally the trick is with like a title is like you've got that going as far through the season as possible. And, you know, like they've not dropped anything yet. So the longer they can keep that up, similar to Leicester, the bigger that little seed of belief can become, or that little, you know, light at the end of the tunnel gets a bit closer and becomes realer, you know, because again, probably the worst thing about our division is that everyone plays each other like 12 times, you know. So like once you've went through the full league, and, you know, let's see how they do tomorrow night. Obviously, we all wish them the best, I suppose. But once they've went through the first like session of fixtures, if they're pretty much on track where they're at now, they're not going to be worried going into, you know, round 2, round 3 of fixtures before the split. So yeah, I think the momentum's a big part of it.
It's massive. It absolutely is. And I think we got a bit of that different scenario, but we certainly got that with Ange Postecoglou in his first season. We started building a momentum, and it was like game after game, and we just didn't stop. To quote the great man himself, Mark Anthony Smith, it was the late John Keane who wrote the cheque that saved our club from administration. I'm not sure what the conversation is on the chat that brought you to say that, Mark, but yeah, we spoke about that obviously back in the day, a long time ago, 30 years ago now, where the cheque was written and Celtic were saved. He did write it, but if you read all the books from that time, Mark, there was two different people who were willing to pay the money. One was John Keane, the other, of course, was Fergus McCann, and the club survived. Stephen Donnelly, John, I would still buy Lennon Miller and loan him back to Motherwell. He is only a young player, plus being Scottish helps us in Europe. Now, Stephen, I brought it up. It was spoken about yesterday. It was spoken about after the game, but it is something that isn't going to go away, and that's the fact that in terms of Scottish talent, Lawrence, Lennon Miller's up there. And he showed it against Celtic again. He's 18 years of age, 51 games under his belt. Potentially he'll leave in January. How much of an effort should Celtic make to bring him in? Because I don't think, we've already spoken about the midfield, I don't think he gets the game at the moment. I know he's brilliant, and I agree with that. And in his mind as well, he'll be looking at it thinking, right, I'm playing games every week for Motherwell. Why would I go and sit on a bench somewhere? So what's your take on Lennon Miller? Do you buy him and loan him back out? How do you deal with that?
That's about midfield. I'm with you. I don't think he'd get a game. You've got Odom home. What we're going to do with him? But if he becomes available, you've got to look at buying him, putting him back out on loan. I think, do like we've done with Christie. It's great young Scottish talent. Depending if the money's right, why not buy him, put him out, whether back to Motherwell or to another team on loan. He's performed kind of really well last season. He's continued that into this season. So I'm sure our football scouting department will have all his stats, and Tosh will have done the reports. He's definitely on the radar. It's what's best for developing his career. It wouldn't be to come in and sit on the bench with it, or not even make the bench potentially with Celtic. So you need to be putting an offer in front of him and say, look, come to us and here's your development plan.
Here's your pathway.
We'll put you back to Motherwell for a year and a half. Keep developing, and then we'll be looking to bring you back in. I don't know, what's Callum just now, 32 or
31. He's still a young spud, mate.
Yeah, he did start to get a late, eh?
But, is he younger than us three? Quinny, is he younger than us three? I know he's younger than Lawrence and I.
Yeah, he's younger than me. Yeah, I'm an 88 kid.
Oh, good year. Good year for the Hoops.
Yeah. But
Lawrence, I'm
Mark
going to have to
Patrick's
ask
as
you.
well. Would you believe?
Well, really? Fantastic. Double done. A double celebration. You might be interested in our next live event, which I'm going to announce later on tonight, actually, if you're into the centenary year. Lawrence, you mentioned Tosh and team. We are, of course, talking about Tosh McKinley, who is part of the scouting network that Celtic has, led by Jay Lefebvre. That's the best I can do with his pronunciation. What do you make of the changes, and how would that affect the scouting team? The changes in terms of the structure of the football department, Lawrence?
I think will help Brendan manage things. You know, the new guy reports into Brendan, so it gives Brendan a bit less to do, doesn't it? You know, he'll set him tasks saying, look, I want you to manage the loan players, the scouting, and give me reports probably weekly for Brendan, you know, and how things are progressing. You know, we've talked about the need to get a replacement in for Mark Lawwell. You know, it didn't work out for Mark. He was a Celtic fan. There was obviously allegations he only got the job because his dad. I don't know if that's true or not. You know, there's some signings from his time that you're kind of going to work out, but he maybe doesn't get credit for. But, you know, at the end of the day, he was a Celtic fan. It was his dream job. You know, you don't want to see a Celtic fan lose a job. But it's taken us a wee while to get the replacement, and hopefully a lot of that's been making sure it's the right guy that's coming in.
If we get 8 million for Bernabei, will we give Mark Lowell credit?
Was he signed under his watch, mate? That's the thing. You know, what do we call success? Is it signing players and turning for a profit whilst keeping a winning team in the park? I'd say that's part of it. I mean, the big thing that we talk about is kind of performances in Europe is the thing that's been missing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
on the point now of Lennon Miller, right? I mean, Quinny, you'll know this yourself. Any team that's invested in any way, shape, or form in data analysis for recruitment purposes will be aware of this player. And I'm not just talking Scottish football, all across the board. He will be pinging on many, many radars. If indeed that's the case, and it comes to January, right? And we're all Celtic fans, and we'd love to see the best talent at Celtic Park. If he's got options, so if he's pinged up like Jack Hendry did in the radar in Belgium, or if he pings up in the radars over in Italy, as many Scottish youngsters have, and then Celtic are interested. Is it a dilemma for you, Quinny? We're all Celtic fans. We know it gives you, I don't know, it galvanises you a wee bit more, I guess, with regards to, we keep going on about it with Luke McCowan. But in terms of his future and his career, would it be the best move for him if he had options in England or Italy or Belgium?
I think it really does depend on the options. Like when I watch Lennon Miller against us, especially, I don't really watch Motherwell games if we're not against Celtic, but I catch bits and pieces of what he gets up to, obviously. But he looks like, so it depends on the options, because a lot of the players that are in the same sort of, let's say, section of the transfer market, they go one of two ways. They either end up at like a Verona type club in Italy, or a Bologna. Bologna are doing a wee bit better because they got finished 4th last year, which was great. Probably won't do that again this year, sadly for them. But you know, guys that are in that kind of price bracket where they'll go there, they get a really quick chance of getting into the team. You know, like Doig went to Verona, got into the team quickly, then got another move. And, you know, there's been other examples of that. If it's that kind of option, I could see us being a better option, as long as we have like a plan for his development, because it's been clear that minutes has been the most important thing to him and his dad or his entourage or whatever. And I think if we were to sign him, we would need to have a loan lined up, and it couldn't be in Scotland. It would need to be a loan to, I was just looking there, that Admira team that we've got a little link. 11 games into the season, they're 2 points clear at the top of the table. And I've seen some reports on Twitter about some of our kids obviously scoring goals and doing all right. So if they go into the top division, you know, they're maybe not, they're not Salzburg or something like that. But point being, he needs to keep playing minutes. And the next way to get him to develop so that he could come back and be a first team player for us is playing somewhere outside of Scotland, where, you know, they need to be, you know, they get different types of training. It's a different environment. And then, you know, they develop, you know, different qualities, because he's already had 50 odd games in Scotland. He'll probably leave here with 60 or 70, playing big teams in big stadiums, being the main man, taking set pieces. He's got really good experience. But when I think about that, this kind of situation, it kind of reminds me a bit about Haaland. If you remember when Haaland was leaving like Molde, it was like Salzburg he went to first, and then Dortmund. And that was like a thing that was quite well known, that him and his dad were like, we don't need to run into Man United, we don't need to run to Real Madrid, we don't need to run to these top teams. We're going to take our time, get the minutes, earn our stripes, and then go that way. So I think you would need that sort of plan to get him now at this stage. And especially if like somebody like Leipzig could be in for him, or like I think Lennon Miller would suit like Red Bull football pretty well. If somebody like that comes in, then they're not answering the phone to us anymore. The horse is bolted, I think.
Yeah, and I do think he is the most talented player I've seen in Scottish football. That in that age profile, Lawrence, I'd like to see him in the hoops. I'm just looking at some of the guys we brought in, and I asked myself, would he? But again, McKeown's
as talented as Ben Doak, mate, because that's the same age just now, isn't it? The two of them kind of ages, you know, because that's maybe the competition will start facing some Scottish players again that are doing well. Doak's went away. I know he's on loan. He's doing well. But if it's a club like Liverpool or someone that comes in and it's life-changing money, let's be honest, you know, how much a week could we really offer them? 12, 13 grand a week at push, mate. Some of our first team players on that. You know, if we're bringing them in, put them out on loan, how much could we offer them? You get somebody from down south that comes in and offers 60 grand. It's kind of hard to say no to 4 times the money, isn't it? So depending on the agent and what the advice is and what the plan is for getting to the top and developing. It's kind of touched on, and you know, Haaland done it, but we've developed players before. It's kind of, it depends who we keep in our midfield as well, mate. You know,
I'm going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you that question because you were talking about keeping McKeown in for tomorrow night, and I was looking at a list of players just a year ago that we still had in the building. David Turnbull was one of them. Tomoki Iwata was in there. Ideguchi, although out on loan, he was still our player. We had a lot of midfield surplus to requirements. But now what we've got, I think the only guy where there's a question mark over his head is probably Odin Holm. You've said McKeown plays for you tomorrow night. Lawrence, what's your midfield three, though? Who else plays?
I would think you've got a cup on the horizon. You've got Leipzig, Sergo, with McKeown, Bernardo and Engels. I would do. Yeah.
Bernardo, Engels and McKeown, says Lawrence. I've got to ask you the same question, Quinny, because we've got good options in there, and Lawrence is unceremoniously dropping the captain. Didn't miss a heartbeat, just dropped the captain just like that. How are you going to shape up tomorrow night for the midfield?
I'm kind of similar to Lawrence, and I would be of the opinion that McGregor maybe gets the opportunity to get like another game off, and then he's totally set and fresh and ready to go. So it is an easy opportunity for the manager to give other people minutes at the moment. So like maybe McGregor was pictured in training today. You know, they did say it was 50-50 for tomorrow, but definitely be fine for Saturday. So I would probably be inclined to imagine that McGregor doesn't make this game as well. And I would agree with Lawrence that midfield three is probably the one that like just logically fits together and makes the most sense. If you're saying there's no McGregor, McKeown's definitely going to start, and then you imagine Engels comes back from the bench. But I don't know. I think at home, Engels and Bernardo's too slow, and I don't think he'll play both of them. You know, so that's when I stop with it. I don't really know if that'll be the way it goes or what the solution to that would be. But I hope the midfield is Engels sitting where we've seen Bernardo at the weekend, and it's the same midfield. Otherwise, it's McKeown and Hatate. Because again, at home, we don't really care too much that midfielder isn't always great at defending, or like is a midfielder. We want McGregor, we want Bernardo, Engels, whoever it might be, being a bit further up and moving the ball from left to right and trying to dink one over for somebody. And Engels is probably better at that than Bernardo. And I don't think, by all accounts, Bernardo won a lot of fans over at the weekend, although I think he looked quite comfortable in that position and there's no reason to really hook him from it. So it's a weird one. I would like to see Engels, McKeown, Hatate, but I think logically, like Lawrence's midfield is probably the one that, like, that now is the prediction to make, if you know what I mean. It makes sense.
Yeah, and why rush McGregor back, for this game that we should be able to take care of? Now, James has given us 11. Schmeichel, of course, with the defence of Johnson, Carter-Vickers, Trusty and Bailly. Midfield, Hatate, McGregor, McKeown. Up top, Maeda, Kyogo and Kuhn. And it takes me to the striking positions because obviously Adam Maeda had a...
Mate, if I was controversy dropping McGregor, he's dropping a bit. Scales our best defender there.
Maybe resting him rather than dropping him.
For the semi-final. It was a semi-final team he put up.
Oh, that was for the semi-final?
Yeah.
Listen, there's going to be people who, at the first opportunity, and he won't be the only one, who will drop Liam Scales. I wouldn't. I think Liam Scales has been our best defender. But yeah, it would be controversial. I want to speak about Adam Maeda because I think in terms of his afternoon at the weekend, he had a mixed bag. comes on, scores a goal, nice finish. That's what we expect from him. And then he gets that leg crunching tackle, Lawrence, that was discussed by the Motherwell manager. It was discussed by the Celtic manager. It was a shocker, if you ask me. And he's in a moon boot. That's the update that we've got. So he might even miss out. We don't know yet. I thought it was a dreadful tackle. And I find it disappointing that anybody could come out, any professional could come out and say otherwise. I know you've got to protect your players to a degree, Lawrence, but let's not, take away from the fact that he could have snapped his ankle.
Ridiculous from Kettlewell. But what was strange there is Kuhn had to ride a similar challenge made at the same time.
Barely
it could possibly have been 2 red cards. Both Motherwell players out of control, both studs up. One makes contact with Ida's leg, and Kuhn has to ride the other tackle. Like, argument for 2 red cards, which should probably have been, neither of which should have been the first red card of the game. But, VAR doesn't see a lot of things. Well, the people, watching the bar screens miss things. But, yeah, Ida's very lucky that he didn't have a broken leg. And it's, we're cruising the game there. You're just wondering what's going on. Players 2 players at the same time diving in with off the ground, studs up challenges and Celtic players. It's not a good advert for the game. And for Kettlewell, I don't know if he had time to watch it again. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's not watched it before commenting on it, because if he sees that, it's almost as clear a red card as what the penalty we didn't get.
Oh, no. But the thing is, it sounds as though he had seen it, though, because he was talking about stills and all this, Lawrence. And I just think that you've got to be balanced, Quinny, as a manager. You've got to support your players, of course, but there are times where you've also got to protect the professional element of that. And there's a player who could snap his leg. The bigger picture for me, though, after that and looking at the situation is we're a tackle like that away from a bit of a crisis up top, because we've only got 2 strikers. And I think on the wings, although we've got the bodies, I don't think we've got the quality. If we get an injury on the wing at the moment, I think you're a downgrade, massive downgrade from Maeda to Palma or Yang. I'm a wee bit happier on the right-hand side. Sorry, Lawrence.
I was going to say, Palma's starting to put in shifts again, mate. We saw it in Europe, closing players down. I think he put in a shift again. So I don't know, mate. Maybe it's a change of attitude. Maybe come back into a bit of form. Because when he first started with his first 2 or 3 months, it was great. And I honestly think he's, those games you didn't see too much effort from him. Not in his recent appearances. You're starting to see a bit of effort from him. So maybe we do have some cover. Maeda goes up top and Palmer comes in.
The moment against Atlanta that I liked a bit, and I agree with you, he's doing some of the basic things you would have expected from him, Lawrence, but he played a great ball into Kyogo, and that was the one that Kyogo dinked over the bar. But no, you're spot on, but I'm still not convinced that he's trusted, going into a big game. Does Brendan Rodgers trust them? And the injury to Ida brought all this to light for me, Quinny, the fact that we are still short in some of these areas, aren't we?
Yeah, like the best, the front 3, the best 3 now is as good as we've had it for about a year or so. Kuhn's been electric. We've had the best kind of version of Dyson for the last 12 months or so, and the Kyogo Ida thing's been working out pretty good. But yeah, I'm quite with you. Like, the thing with Palma for me is he's just never convinced me that he's a winger, if you know what I mean. Like, he's just never really shown to be that effective out wide from the way we like to make chances. Quick play, running into space. He's got great delivery. I've been kind of calling him on the Celtics Are Here channel recently. Like, he's like I don't know if we can swear here, but I'll just say he's been really bad. He's like a really bad version of David Beckham. Like, he's a guy that's got great delivery and obviously got a really good left foot, can take corners, can smash free kicks and penalties in. But it's really hard in the way we play to give him the space to, just try and find open ground, because he's not good at being shoulder to shoulder with someone. If he's faced up with somebody, he's not going to get the ball, like on the other side of them. And he's just quite a hard player to fit in. So like seeing him do this extra work and everything, it's like great on the wide areas if he's like going to keep playing out there. But I think everyone can see that he's got some quality, but it's just how you get the most out of it. It's always the kind of struggle. And if he has to start, I think in Scotland, like, for the league stuff, he'll be effective enough for the most part. But he's very different to what we've got.
It looks as though Rodgers is persevering with him, though. He's not like just been banished. Odin Holm looks as though he's banished and he's out the picture entirely, literally out the team group picture. But Palmer, he seems to be persevering with him and giving him more. So maybe when he's talking to him, he's getting a good response from him in terms of, he is learning and willing to adapt and develop. And I hope that is the case. Now, Jungle Lion points out that Leipzig and Dortmund are playing at the weekend, and it should be an interesting watch. I'll keep one eye on that for sure. McLaughlin P. I can mind Billy McKinlay being outstanding in the 88 Cup final. Well, Quinny can't because, you're just a bairn for Dundee United at 18 or 19. McKinlay was one of the players I always wanted to sign. There was a whole...
He had an offer. Had an offer. They went to Blackburn, didn't he? Had an offer from us. They decided to go to Blackburn Rovers instead.
So he had a chance to sign because he's a Celtic fan. McKinlay,
Celtic fan, chance to sign, but went down to Kenny Dalglish's Blackburn.
There's a picture of him and Chris Sutton in the Hoops bar, drinking in the Hoops bar, when they were both at Blackburn Rovers. And obviously we ended up signing Sutty, a man that you've met a few times yourself, Lauren. Sanity Clause 2. I like the name. Dermot Desmond on record saying he will never sell his shares, folks. Yes, he has said that. But I don't think, it all depends on whether or not his son, Ross, is going to be able to take the reins. And business changes frequently by the minute at times. So I'm not sure I would stick to that. At one point in the future, we may have different ownership. Who knows? Now, we've got a suggestion here that we should send Holm and Palmer up to Aberdeen on loan in January. Listen, anybody that's not playing, I would loan them to Aberdeen. But I don't think it's as easy as that, Lawrence, because I was saying to a pal of mine who supports the Dons that they should have been going for McEwen in the summer. And his response was he wouldn't get a game. Wouldn't get a game for Aberdeen. So I think there's, when we send players like Liam Scales, Ryan Christie, Adam Montgomery, I remember there being a bit of backlash when Montgomery arrived because they were like, we're not your feeder club, we're not your nursery club. You're not sending us players to develop for you. So I don't think that would work.
I wouldn't be sending anyone to Aberdeen on this season. That don't want to be giving them any more help because it looks like they will be the challengers. So why would you? Home definitely put them out on loan, but I honestly think it looks like Palmer's definitely his work rate's changed. So whether he's taken on board stuff from Rodgers, who knows? But his first 2 or 3 months, we'd got a great return from Palmer. If you could get that player back again, that was giving you the figures he gave us in his first 2 or 3 months of his Celtic career, you'd be saying, all right, he's decent. He had a better start to his career than Kuhn did, didn't he? So, yeah, so it's about recapturing that and Brendan, getting the best out of the players. As you've said, he seems to be sticking with him. Now, whether that's through necessity, because he's going, well, he's a better option than Yang, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But from what I've seen of Palmer, he's putting in more effort in the park. So you've got to say, look, the guy's trying, you can see a difference in his game with the effort he's putting in. But Aberdeen get players on loan from us, not this season. Why would we? Because it's only going to help them. But yeah, I'd put Home out on loan. I don't know what the plans is for Home, but if we're touching on Lennon Miller, but if Lennon Miller's going, well, I'm doing well, but so was Odin Holm before he went to Celtic.
The one thing about Odin Holm, though, I can't think of a game, Lawrence, or a scenario like McEwen at the weekend where he was given a start, Quinny, and he grabbed a game and he absolutely, he was the man that made the difference. I've never seen that from Holm. I've seen some nice touches, but that's it.
I think one of the things that really surprised me with Holm was one of his first matches, probably, but he took a shot. We were at home, and I can't remember how the whole kind of passage of play worked out or whatever, but he took a shot from the edge of the box, and honestly, it's the most feeble shot I've ever seen at Celtic Park in my life. Like, I could have hit a stronger shot from the edge of the box, is kind of how I felt from it. And I'd never really known much, but I don't know, that kind of always stuck with me a wee bit. First impressions with football players, we can live and die on them sometimes, I think, can't we? But I don't know, it just always feels like it, whenever I've seen him, like he's like a wee boy, and I know there's some players that are really young, like Lennon Miller, and we're talking about Doak earlier, who was getting some minutes for us at 16. He never looked like that, whenever he was getting his minutes. So I don't know, he always just looked a wee bit like undercooked to me. And yeah, the Scandinavian thing at Aberdeen probably makes a little bit of sense. I was thinking earlier on, but when you were talking about Martin Compson, there's definitely a joke or a statistic or something out there for Martin Compson getting more minutes at Parkhead than Odenholm had, or James McCarthy maybe, or something. Maybe we should be loaning Martin Compson to Aberdeen. Maybe that's what we should do.
Definitely. I hope I don't upset Martin by revealing his misdemeanors. I don't think he cares now that he's a Hollywood superstar. But Martin, if you're tuning in, come on to the show. Come on to This Is Acsom. Your big pal Tony Curran's been on the show, as has Gianni Capaldi. in the past as well, Lawrence.
Yeah, Tony's a good lad. Tony's papa was responsible for getting Danny McGregor to Celtic Park. What a pleasant game that is.
Yeah.
You know? But listen, I think home with a wee bit of controversy, something he posted after a decent performance against Aberdeen, wasn't it?
That's right.
You know, probably his best game for Celtic. But
it was a song lyric, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who's the artist, Quinny? It wasn't Snoop. And it certainly wasn't P. Diddy. I can't remember who it was, though. Can't remember.
It was a Tupac. Was it a Tupac lyric?
Might have been, yeah. What
do you think of the penalty shout then? You know, we were just kind of...
No. I want to talk about the ref and the VAR calls, because we were actually given credit to some of the changes that have been implemented since Willie Collum took over as the head of referees. And I don't think he was a good ref. I really don't. But, all we ask for as football fans, anybody who's, investing in any way, shape or form to Scottish football, just wants transparency, right? So we were giving them loads of credit for coming out and actually speaking to the fans and using, modern medium, etc., to put that message out there. Fantastic. We made a mistake. This is what we should have done. Brilliant. Because it actually shows that they're human as well. And there has always been, up to this point, don't know if it's going to happen in the future, this thought process that a certain club has been favoured over anybody else when it comes to decisions. So I think it's good to come out and talk about it. But we're constantly seeing these deficiencies in the system, Quinny. I mean, at the weekend, Celtic weren't the only fan base who were unhappy with how VAR was getting used, or not used. St Mirren fans would have been unhappy. There was a situation where Kevin Clancy didn't have access to any images. He had to go and speak to the managers of the respective clubs and basically apologise and say, it's tin pot. What we're using is tin pot. But as Celtic fans, we are looking at the incident that Lawrence has brought up. Maeda, penalty all day long. And if it's a penalty, it's a sending off as well, isn't it?
Agreed, totally. I think that's probably the most obvious crime against Dyson that there's been in recent years. But I don't think there's been a Celtic game gone by for Dyson Maeda where he does not constantly get the rough end of the deal. Any 50-50 shoulder thing down in the corner by the touchline, and he never fights with a ref. He just looks so disappointed every time, and he just admits if you're not going to change your mind, and he just gets on with it. Mm-hmm. But literally, every game, stuff like that happens against him, and no one talks about it. Refs and all that kind of stuff, even the manager or whatever. But it's as clear as day. He's going through. The guy's the wrong side of him, and the first thing he does is say he pushes. And I know you can't take the player's character into it and all the rest of it, but we know that referees are human beings, and they're just going to be susceptible to this stuff. And the guy never dives. The guy never gives anyone any grief. He never tries to get something that's not his. He actually doesn't even fight for the stuff that is his. Yeah. And when you see his first reaction is, "Oh no, I've been pushed. It's fine, boys. Don't worry about it." It's honestly, it's crazy how comfortable they are being so. I don't know what the word is that we're going to get in trouble for, but
no, just call them out, Quinny. We've done it before. Oh, absolutely. We've dedicated shows to it. Lauren's always is our special guest at bringing it up. But I agree. I just think, anybody watching football from virtually any angle can see Lawrence. He's pushed in the back. It's a penalty kick. It's a red card. Nobody's shouting for the goal. We all saw the fact that it hit his hand and went in.
But what's the process in the VAR room? They're checking the goal. Okay, it's at his hand. Right, we need to check the attacking phase of play. What happens, I don't know, half a second before that? There's an arm on his back that pushes him over. It's clean through and goal. But we're not saying that they had to go back 20 seconds in the attacking phase. It's half a second, go back. You'll see the guy push him over when he's about 7 yards out and about to pull the trigger. Now, do these VAR officials have to mark up when they review something on a piece of paper going, didn't see anything there? Everybody watching the game could see it.
Yeah.
It's how they get away with it. Because Colin will come out, no doubt, and if they choose to review this and say we made a mistake. Well, I think to be a permanent VAR official, it appears you need to be a fan of Rangers. So how many big mistakes did they get to make when they still keep their job? If you were doing something that was so obvious and say, listen, you're here to apply the rules. You made a mistake in that one again. And it's with the benefit of multiple camera angles, being able to slow it down, speed it up, watch it again and again. And surely there've got to be some kind of checklist they tick here to say, no, I didn't see any of this, so it's not a penalty. Or I did see that, so it's a penalty. How many of those mistakes can they make and still keep their job? Because if we get another show from Willie in a few weeks' time and he says, actually, yeah, Celtic game, definite penalty and a sending off. Don't know what happened there. St Mirren game, kick to the head. Yeah, it's a red card. Don't know what the ref thought he saw. But he gave the free kick. So he must have gave a free kick for something, but surely not a kick to the head because the ref knows the rules. He's tested in these things. The guys in the VAR studio know the rules. So surely it wasn't a kick to the head because they know it's an automatic red card. They played advantage for St Mirren. Good advantage plays. The boys tripped in the box. The crazy thing is the ref goes, I'll call it back for the free kick.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it that stopped play, ref? Can I get brought down in the box? What were the VAR guys doing? You know, saying to ref, you maybe want to look at this. The guy's just been tripped in the box. Apparently none of it happened. You know, it's just, you know, what Willie's doing the right thing, getting communication out there. But it becomes untenable for them to keep saying, we didn't see that. We forgot about that part of the rule. We didn't rewind that a second to see that.
See that bit, though, Lawrence? See that bit? I think that's the important bit. It becomes untenable. Therefore, right, it becomes uncomfortable for him to continually do it. And if it becomes uncomfortable for him to then start speaking about constant mistakes, then he needs to do something about it behind the scenes. So yeah. I think it actually works as a positive in that sense.
Well, totally for us. You know, that's why I think it's, you know, it's been a good development from Willie. That's what I'm saying. How often, you know, is it 3 strikes and you're out? 3 blatant mistakes. Would you keep your job? Keep you involved, but you keep making big mistakes. You know, previously, if it was a ref on the park, he'd be relegated down a division or 2. So, like, you're not getting the top games. Well, what happens with the VAR guys? Why do they keep, you know, what's the sanction?
And are they being reviewed? Are they being reviewed? You know, like a ref, there's somebody in the stand reviewing their performance.
But the thing is,
what about the VAR?
Down the leagues. No. So what do they do with them? You know, they're permanent VAR guys. You've got to say, well, look, you've got to call on competency for the job then.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. You know, you're either competent or not at the job, and if you're not competent at it.
But if you're the head of refs, right, if you're the head of refs, and let's say you have got incompetency or a culture that you're trying to change, right, behind the scenes, and your team continually make the mistakes, but you're the guy that needs to be the public face of it, and you're the one that has to explain why they're continually making mistakes, I think that would actually work in the favour of ourselves, because I reckon that Willie Collum would need to do something about it. Otherwise, you know, his job becomes more difficult, and it's not because of what he's doing, it's because of what his team's doing.
Well, it puts pressure on everyone to do something. If Willie Collum's out there saying, yeah, another week, monthly mistakes from the same refs favouring the same teams, you know, it's not the old culture of honest mistakes now. Or, you know, we've told him he needs to get better. It can only last for so long.
And what he wants to do
the guys making mistakes themselves must feel pressure when it's public out there. Yeah, your boss has told you, 3 months running, keep making decisions for Rangers. Can't be doing that.
The focus increases, and I know that Willie Collum wants Scottish refs to be picked for the elite tournaments again. You know, because we were infamously left out of it, and we have been. And it basically says the standard of your reffing's rubbish. We don't want any of your refs, and it's embarrassing as an association. So I know that's one of the things he wants to improve as well. Just before we go, gentlemen, brilliant debut, by the way, Quinny. Absolutely tremendous. You said that you sometimes the first impression of someone sticks with you. I'm going to give you an example. I think it was St Johnstone were playing. I would need to check the wiki. But Mo Bangura got the ball, right? And he did this wee turn and shimmy. And I remember coming home thinking he's going to be a player. So it doesn't always work. Work.
Fair.
I just want a wee prediction. Lawrence, tomorrow night, give me a prediction for Celtic versus Dundee.
I think we'll run out 4-0, mate.
Nice. Take that. What about yourself, Quinny?
My official prediction is 5-0, because I think we're cooking, and we're a clean sheet machine at the moment, so it just means we've got the ball more. And at home, I don't know if it was on this show, but I definitely heard it last season. Somebody came out with a great statistic, but Celtic at home midweek in the league, we've not lost in eternity or something like that. It's like a mad statistic we've got in our favour. So I'll be at the game as well, which is always good luck. It's always good when I'm there. So under the floodlights.
Magical under the lights. That's what it is. 5-0. I'll take it all day long. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Give us a big thumbs up as you do, and subscribe to the channel. We're heading towards 30,000 subscribers. It's always a pleasure. So thank you, Lawrence Conley and Quinny, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.